الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. صدق الله مولانا العظيم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد القونين وثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم. Alhamdulillah, it is with the immense fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa azza wa jal, we have been directed and united under the banner and guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and through the means of Sahaba, Tabi'in, Taba Tabi'in, the righteous and pious people throughout the centuries, Hasusan upon the Mashayikh of Tariqa Muhammadiyya, namely Sayyidina Abdul Aziz al-Dabbagh, Sayyidina Abdul Qadir al-Jilani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, and the current master and teacher of the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sayyidina Shaykh Ahmad Dabbagh, Hafizahullah ta'ala, whom are the means for us knowing about him, knowing about the Mashayikh, and knowing about the way to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, embedding the proactive sunnah into one's daily life, firstly via negation, and then through the means of proacting and engaging in those sunnah and those amal and askar which please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as it is without any shadow of a doubt Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was created in the most perfected format out of any creation. He, the spirit of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is the first creation and a complete representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over all other anbiya and over all other rusul and over all other creation, including angel and high-ranking creation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the epitome of perfection. He is the teacher of the Sahaba. He is Imam al-Anbiya, Sayyid al-Rusul, the master of the prophets. Sayyid al-Shuhada, he is the master of the people who were martyred. He was not only that, he was also a business person, a family man, a father, a parent, an uncle, a husband, a commander, a leader of the people. And in addition to that, he had many other sifat and qualities which were reflected via the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, we hear the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rahmah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the title to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam of Rahmatan lil Alameen, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only created Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as a physical format, as a physical guide, but also a spiritual guide, to guide the Sahaba, to guide others to what we know as the complete way of life. So it is not only this partial way of life that we will adopt one or two sunnahs outwardly, but inwardly have a total neglect. A total neglect. Throughout time, what has happened, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam departed this world, the torch carried on. Each candle remained lit. As Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesied, at the turn of each century, a reviver of my religion will come. A reviver of my religion will come. And he will revive the religion to its truest format. And based on your observation, based upon your understanding, and it is not a complete observation, but from what you can see and what you can tell and what you can understand at this present moment in time, I cannot see anyone else who is reviving the sunnah and reviving the complete way of life other than our teacher, to a high, very high level. Not only that, even the worst of people, those people who are completely adherent or completely obedient, so on both sides of the spectrum, completely disobedient and completely obedient, both sides are benefiting from the teacher. Just as in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not only did the Muslims benefit, but the non-Muslims benefited too, as this has been shown and a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is not very often you find this very quality in people. So today, as we have discussed about the harm and the lack of benefit that is caused from a complete disruption or complete what is one of the impediments on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One was people and your relationship with them, and how that particular relationship can be turned and manipulated and used against you. And you have to also bear in mind, just to summarize on that very point, that if any single person, friend or foe, family or non-family, come to you and say to you and give you any advice, if it is not in conjunction with the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or in the commandments and teachings of our saluk, the saluk of Tariqah Muhammadiyah, meaning what is highlighted definitively in the tariq. So not a subjective matter or something that is doubtful. I am talking about something that is critical. For example, if somebody says to you, go and give dawah in a nightclub, or go and give dawah into a pub. Now, this is a critical matter, because it is definitive in the tariq that you do not go to these places. Or if somebody says to you, I want you to hit such and such a person, without valid sharia or without valid shari reason, and you go and hit that person. Again, something that is definitive in the saluk, in the path. Very first thing in our path is negation of sin, i.e. correlating with our kalima of Tawheed, that we recite La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We say there is no God. Why is it that negation comes first? Negation is what brings the benefit. Negation what brings the benefit. And it is like many moons ago, people would give examples about purifying. Say a person has come back from Hajj or Umrah, or they've done itikaf or done some really good deed. And when they step out of that place, or when they leave that holy place, they then have an immediate want to, say a person who's completely non-practicing, and he wants to pray 5 times and leave every sin under the sun. And it is like they give an example, what is easier, to break 7 pencils or 1 pencil? And they say to break 1 at a time is easier. So what we do, first we negate with our tongue, then we negate with our eyes and our ears and our stomach, hands, feet and private parts. In this very order. You will go through the methodology quite swiftly, very quickly. I to negate everything, which then leaves only room for positivity. Only leaves room for positivity. Only leaves room for good change. Now, if a person does not go through this process, what is the likely outcome of this individual? Is that, yes, he may guard his tongue in certain for example, even if there was a person in this room and they would have the most potty mouth you could imagine, they would not swear in this mosque. Why would they not swear in the mosque? Because they have etiquette for the mosque. But there are still some people who will do. But I'm talking generally, if a person came and sat in this room now, he could have a very high level potty mouth, but he will not swear in this gathering. He will not hit anyone in this gathering, but he could be a active street fighter or brawler. He could be going to the nightclub, but he can still come in this. What I'm trying to say is that there are certain environments and certain situations where you already feel the effects of tazkiyah. So where does tazkiyah actually come to fruition? Where is the test lie? It is not here in the mosque. It is not in the haram. It is not in Iraq. It is not in Fez. It is not in Bolton or Hyde or Oldham. The fruits of the tazkiyah come when you're in work, when you're at home, when you're with your friends, when you're with your family, when you're at college, university, when you are around others. That is the fruits of one's tazkiyah. Not here. You are all purified to me here. Meaning a person is observant, a person is, they're not speaking ill, they are looking correctly, they are listening properly, they are not sitting with their hands, feet, private part. Meaning some things even physically can't even do. So this restriction does not reflect your tazkiyah. Hence why last week what I talked about was a person who goes into solitude, it does not reflect his tazkiyah. Meaning for you to leave your test, to leave the testing ground and go and be alone, what you're doing ultimately is wasting time. And we will go on to talk about this here. So Sayyidina Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, he mentions that the third impediment, the a'iq, is the devil, Shaytaan. And they have said that your next obligation, oh my brother, is to combat Satan and conquer him. And there are two good reasons for this. Shaytaan is an obvious and misleading enemy who has no interest in your welfare or preservation. He has no interest. Keep this very clear in your mind. Shaytaan is not your friend. Shaytaan is not your friend. He is your open enemy. Allah has told us this in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us Shaytaan is your enemy. He's not your friend. So anything that comes from him is not sincere advice. It is not good advice. It is bad advice. Rather, when he tells you something, you should do the opposite. And you know, when Shaytaan whispers into your heart, you know he's whispering. You know that he's doing this. Indeed, nothing short of your destruction will satisfy him in the least. His happiness is your failure. Even some people have this quality. Yes, some people have this quality too. You know, say something, a misfortune inflicts someone or myself. I want the other person to feel this misfortune because this is a devilish thought. But we need to understand is that this is a quality of Shaytaan. So there is no question of feeling safe from such a foe, nor of being off guard against him. So there is no, like in warfare, I don't know what do you call it in warfare when the two parties have a, what's it called? A ceasefire. So they're in two enemies or war, nowadays ceasefire. In the past it was called, they would just seize and put everything to a halt. Now it's ceasefire because people use guns and such. There are certain enemies, even two enemies would not even drop their guard against. And we know one enemy that is forever present until our death is Shaytaan, and we are regularly lowering our guard for him. We are saying, Shaytaan, take your best shot. How much damage can you do to me? How much can I withstand? When you do this, just understand it from this perspective. We all play football. I know we have not played in a while, but when we do play football, each and every one of us, we have a certain level of stamina. You know you can run for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, or if you add them beyond 2 hours. But when you look at this from this angle, is that you also have a spiritual stamina. A spiritual stamina which is known as your taqwa. This stamina, each and every hit you take from Shaytaan, each and every whack you take, is slowly draining away the stamina that you have built up. That you have built up with your salah, with your zikr, with your askar, with your amal, with all your good deeds. This stamina is now building up. And each and every hit you take, you become slightly weaker. And guess what? How much hurt have you done to the Shaytaan? None. Why? It's because you are a sitting duck to this enemy. Your only fight against him is silence and leaving him. And removing yourself from the situation. That is your fight against him. Meaning, walk away. Diversion. Changing of thoughts, changing of feelings. And so consider these 2 verses from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I read at the start. Alam ahad ilaykum ya bani Adama. Did I not make a covenant with you? Ahad ilaykum ya bani Adama. O sons of Adam. Ala ta'buddu shaytan. That you do not worship Shaytaan. Innahu lakum aduwwum mubin. Surely he's an obvious enemy to you. Innahu lakum aduwwum mubin. He's an open enemy to you. He's an obvious enemy. Allah is subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, I'm not saying this is your Lord telling you this. Your Creator telling you this. Inna shaytana lakum aduwwun. فَتَخِذُهُ أَدَوَّةً. Surely Shaytaan is an enemy to you, so treat him as your enemy. How do you treat an enemy? How do you treat enemy? Maybe none of us have true enemies. But what do you do with your enemy? Generally speaking, you do not associate with them. You don't hang around with them. You don't make friends with them. You don't give them money. You don't make life easy for them. You make life hard for them. As a real enemy, meaning you create difficulty for the person. That is what you treat. That is how you somewhat treat an enemy. Or if he's your proper enemy, like in the past battlefield, you would fight. But this is such an enemy. He's a unique enemy. Is that the method to fight against him is foretold. It's been taught to us over and over again. Your failure in this activity is purely down to yourself. Because your Shaytaan, your nafs, needs to be trained and molded correctly. The second reason Sayyidina Imam al-Ghazali has given, Shaytaan is naturally disposed to enmity towards you and always committed to waging war against you through the watches of the night and all the daylight hours. Now, do not get this twisted. Warfare is not only on the battlefield. Nowadays, majority of warfare involves what? You can see around the world, look around you. There are one country with certain amount of army bases, and then you have cyber warfare, you have then psychological warfare, you then have physical warfare, which involves the fighting. There's all different manifolds of warfare. Shaytaan is fighting you on all fronts. He is not only observing you, he is not only observing your friends, he is not only observing your family, he not only knows the things that you dislike, he knows the things you like. He knows what causes a reaction and he knows what causes a positive reaction. So if he will only incline you towards those things, especially if you fall trap many, many times, is that he will incline you towards these situations. For example, you might be in a gathering with some people and somebody doesn't shake your hand. You might think, why are they not shaking my hand? Shaytaan knows this. Shaytaan may have whispered into his heart, don't shake his hand. But you fell trapped to this. You reacted badly to this. So it comes down to oneself. He pelts you with his darts, but you are heedless of him. So something must be done about the situation. There is another fine point worthy of your close attention, namely that you are engaged in the worship of Allah and in summoning your actions and your speech, since this is the direct opposite of Shaytaan's work and his ambition, his purpose, and his profession. It is as if you have fastened your belt and prepared to infuriate Shaytaan, trick him, and oppose him. He also girds himself in readiness to attack you, fight you, and outwit you, bent on causing mischief. The refuge is with Allah, so do your duty. Meaning, seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at-tawakkul ila Allah. Having reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that these attacks, this warfare will most definitely come to an end. That the struggle that you are facing now will come to an end. It is not permanent. He could see, for example, some wars can go on years and years and years. Even then, a resolution sometimes is not always found. But you should know that you should be prepared to fight this war till the moment that you pass away. Shaytaan is such a being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled him to do these things. Meaning that was his dua, his request, which Allah still accepted. But Allah is using him as a means. Even till your very last moment, your very last breath, Shaytaan will be attacking you. Will be attacking you till your very last breath, to make you forget, to make you heedless, to not prepare you. Because sometimes what he does, especially once the awliya Allah, they mention that Shaytaan will not be content, especially with awliya Allah, or people under the company or guidance of awliya Allah. What they try to do is distract the person from direct worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Shaytaan presents alternatives and means and other things that is not the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning the known methods of worship. So a person busies himself with this to reduce his preparation, for his final moments. Shaytaan is the person who is planning these things. You know, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us clear guidance on what is worship: salah, zakat, fasting, hajj, umrah, meaning kindness, etc. These types of things. But what Shaytaan does is that he will sometimes utilize even these things. Even a good deed will be presented in such a way that it can actually deceive a person. It can cause a person severe misfortune come the end of his life. Because he will think that most of my time has been spent focusing on this, less in the zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is only when outwardly becomes inwardly. That is when the true preparation actually starts. When not only the sunnah outwardly, the sunnah embeds internally. That is when you are truly ready. And that is what the mashayikh are actually preparing us for. This final destination, the final preparation. This is our only run in life. Heather, you will not come again and have a second run. There's not COD, you can press square to respawn. It is not a game. This is real life. Once you are gone, you're not coming back, mate. I won't be coming back. My brothers, you got to understand this. Recently, a brother, 26 years old, had a heart attack and passed away. Who said you cannot have a heart attack? Why can't you have a heart attack? Why can't you cross this road and die? But what is Shaytaan planning? He is making you think and believe that you are not going to die. Shaitan has somewhat instilled into us through whatever means and method that he has used, that we are immortal and we are eternal on this world. That is why people walk around the face of the earth as though they are never going to die, i.e. your gangsters, your those types of people, because they are not fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not fearful, not only are they fearful of Allah, they're not fearful of the means. They're not fearful of death. You don't know when your last breath will be. Even if you are in your late 80s, Shaitan will plan for 80 years for your destruction. So your final moment is of a failing moment, in hope that he catches you off guard. Only through strong, determined, sincere preparation can a person relieve himself from this burden. And under the strict supervision and guidance of our teacher. On Monday, what did they say? Those of you who listened, on one of the brothers' feedbacks, they said, today is, because they were on the TV, they said, today is a veil for me and you. And you don't know when the time will come, when your communication, meaning i.e. the teacher, will come in muraqabah. i.e. your physical connection with them will be diminished. Soon your physical connection will be gone, and you will be veiled behind this world. And your next stage in life will begin, the alam barzakh. Then Yawm al-Qiyamah. And bear in mind, in alam barzakh, what happens in alam barzakh is that barzakh is known as the intermediate world. It is in between. You go to a doctor's surgery, you sit in the waiting room until you see the doctor. The barzakh is a waiting station. It's a waiting place until Allah decides to start the day of judgment, meaning the signs will come, the minor major signs, the Dajjal will appear, Isa alayhi salam will appear, and Mahdi alayhi salam will lead the war against the Dajjal and his army, Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and then after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will announce the angels to blow the trumpet, the sun will rise, the door of Rahmah will close, meaning in a certain order, and that is it. The sun one day will rise from the west. Actually, only recently, the Earth's rotation was slightly off, meaning the day became shorter. And when the sun rises from the west, what will happen is the sun will rise and it will rise again. That's what will happen. And then what will we do? Panic. Because we are not prepared. There will be a confirmation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There will be confirmation of Akhirah. That will be confirmation of Yawm al-Qiyamah. That will be the confirmation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That will wipe away any doubt. Any doubt you've ever had. Even now, sometimes we still have some doubt, because otherwise if there was no doubt, our behavior would be totally different. We would live our life as though it is, we would live our days and our nights as though it was our last day and night. We would not live in a manner that we are. We would be always prepared. And the thing is, like I could say to you, or else could say to me, I'm not coming to majlis. And I could say to him, why? But if he lived his life as though it was his last, he would be running to the majlis. Ill or not ill. Even on his deathbed, a person, he would still be saying to me, meaning if your preparation is right. If a person is not prepared, you are prepared through your mentors and through our Ustādh and Mashayikh, meaning there's a system in place in order for you to benefit. If you do not benefit, that is down to you. You can't blame those who are succeeding. If a millionaire tells you his secret and you actually become poorer, it's not the millionaire's fault, because he has succeeded. If he tells you, this is what I do to make money, I have bought these things at this price from this warehouse at this cost, and you can relist them and sell them for this cost, meaning you can buy them for 10p and sell them for 10 quid. And if you fail, or if you don't do it, the millionaire doesn't lose a penny. It's you losing the money. You're the one that fails. So imagine those people who are successful, meaning openly and outwardly and inwardly as well, they are very successful people, meaning in terms of their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as visualized by many people and seen actively. But they have not failed, we have failed. So it's a question to ask ourselves, and inshallah we can talk about this next time as well. But just to quickly summarize this one, is that he mentions, I don't know, maybe we should go to the next week. Inshallah, we will cover this next part next week, inshallah, because it requires some understanding a little bit, inshallah. So, if I have said anything wrong, may Allah subhanahu, if it's from myself, if I said anything good, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can actually act upon the guidance that is given, and to alert our minds and our hearts to the severity of the message at hand, our enemies, and the fitna and fasad of nafs and shaytan and those around us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually protect us and preserve us from this immediate harm. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
So, we all know Shaytan's our enemy. So, like, why do we forget that so easily? It's like, if you had a physical enemy, you wouldn't forget it quite as easily. But when it comes to Shaytan, it's like, we forget many times.
Part of the reason is that, to my understanding, my limited understanding, is that the reason why we forget is because we actually divert. Shaitan, even the shaitan is such an enemy. Imagine that he disguises himself in other means. Meaning, for example, he might disguise himself in your PlayStation, meaning he's not physically in there, but he uses these things as means, and then you blame this, or your own reaction, or your action. You think others have caused it. One of the wisdoms is in the tariq and the mashayikh teachers is the first point of blame is to ourselves. If we blame ourselves, once we start to blame ourselves, then we can start to then we're more closer to the source. But if you're blaming someone else, then you have to come back to you and then go one more, maybe there's 2 more stages before. But first and foremost, why we forget is because we don't actually know the harm and the threat of shaitan. We're not well versed in this. If you are well versed in the threat, understanding of a hadith and understanding of the Quranic ayats, that when Allah presents it to us, from this understanding and reading, we will also know the threat of shaitan. It's because we have not educated ourselves to that degree, to that level. We have become masters in, meaning not masters, but we have become very well versed in other aspects of the deen. But you should not neglect. There are certain things that you should not neglect. Meaning what is halal to do is for us to know, and what is haram to do is for us to know as well. You can't just, it's fara'id to know all aspects of it. What is that where we forget is partially is our own fault, because we do not take the time and effort to learn about this. If you go on YouTube, you will watch many scholars speak about this threat of shaitan very openly, i.e. what he does and how he deceives people and how he works his magic, how he works his tricks, how he uses people, how he uses parents, family, etc. But we need to take the time out to learn the threat. Once you learn the threat, it's easier to catch on to it, because then you know. If for example, you're playing football and somebody you know is right-footed, you're a defender, what you're going to do, you want to get him on his weak foot. You want to catch him off guard. You want to, he's going to just shoot us, right? Like me, just one-trick pony, and just shoot with my right foot every single time. Or if if we cover that right foot, he's stuck, he's going to have to pass it. Means he's not going to shoot then. But that's because you've learnt this. Obviously, that's a small example, but it's something that you've learnt, that you've understood it. This is a slight threat, so then we need to now block this so that it gets rid of the threat. And then he can, the more you do this, meaning the better you get at this, the more you cause Shaytan's limitations. The more you block the threat. If you allow him to deceive you every single time, he's just, even now, maybe he's listening and actually thinking, why is he saying this? But sometimes things need to be mentioned. Even sometimes is that now he knows I've said this, he will be using these, what I've said, as a tool to further deceive you in some way, shape or form, but you have to then understand the further threat that will come. Is that as much as he think about it, as much as he is ready for me, I need to be as much ready for him. Because he's ready for me in any wake of life, in any state or station. He is prepared for me in my best of days and in my worst of days. Whereas we only prepared for Shaytaan on the best of days, not on the worst of days. So just as Shaytaan, he will cause deceit and deception and use shayateen and jinnat to cause this disruption. And that is why in Ramadan it is a lot easier for people to focus on their religion. It's because Shaytaan, the major shayateen are locked away. It is, you've only got your miniature foot soldiers. And once Mashaykh once described it as, and I will never forget this example. Somebody said, why is it? Obviously everyone always, you hear these examples, is that why do people sin in Ramadan if Shaytan is locked away? Obviously you got the one example, if you stare a cup, keep staring even if you take the spoon out. But they actually told us the actual reason why it happens. They said, you have the major shayateen who are the calculated people, the calculated devils, that they are very particular and very precise. They know, it's like a sniper, he knows you're going to be walking there and he's ready to shoot you. Or if you're in cover, he's waiting for you to get out. Whereas in Ramadan what happens is the miniature foot soldiers come out. And they are just like just running and gunning basically. They just have machine gun and they're holding the trigger. Meaning in other terms, they're just trigger happy, and as soon as they see, they will shoot, meaning whisper into the hearts of believers. Because they don't have no sense of precision or calculation. They just run out and cause destruction as much as possible. Even then the little shayateen are like trained to do this by the major shayateen. But out of panic, and then they will do this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this as a test for a reason. This world is a test. And it is something we need to forbear and understand. If we do not understand this is a test, it's not a luxury. Things will be taken away from you. You will have benefit, you will have loss, you will have gain, you will have loss. You will get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will distance away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is part of the test. You'll have difficulties with people, with friends and family. But it is all down to your commitment and sincerity. That is all ultimately what everything boils down to, is how sincere you are. If you are not sincere, my brothers, you will get caught out. And a time will come, mark my words here today, inshallah this one will get uploaded. Mark my words today, if you are not sincere, and you know you are not sincere, it is only a matter of time before even everything stops. Your salah included. Everything will go. Slowly, the beard will be gone and everything will go. Because what? We lack sincerity. Every single day, you recite Surah Al-Ikhlas in your salah or other surahs, but one main one, everyone recites Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Surah Ikhlas. Why? It's because it's something that has a direct connection with a person's sincerity. It doesn't give you any sincerity. You can recite the whole Quran, it doesn't give you sincerity. But you have to know that actually, if I do not make this informed decision, calculated decision to be sincere or to try. Remember, there's a big thing, is that whether you are actually sincere or not, the fact of the matter is that you're trying. That gives a good indication as to how sincere to another person you are. You might feel the worst, like a hypocrite. Some Sahaba even, they would say about themselves that we feel like munafiqeen. But they were the most sincere of people. Rasulullah ﷺ would say, it's time for battle, it's time for jihad. They would be the first to move. because they always doubted the sincerity, so they would always test it, see how much capacity is in it. Text for majlis has come, how much sincerity do we have? If we're sincere, we try. If we're not sincere, we don't try. That is one of the primary indicators, is how much you try. Then, in order for sustaining that, that is how much struggle and mujahida you have. That's where you can test your sincerity with your mujahida. It's like a calculation with your striving in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, inshallah, I think maybe they're going to come to lock the door. Inshallah, we'll just make dua, and inshallah, sometimes what happens is that actually, inshallah, we can Allah subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.